The reading is from Jonah, chapter 1, verse 17 to chapter 2, verse 9. But the Lord provided a large fish to swallow up Jonah, and Jonah was in the belly of the fish for 3 days and 3 nights. Then Jonah prayed to the Lord his God from the belly of the fish, saying, I called to the Lord out of my distress, and he answered me. Out of the belly of Sheol I cried, and you heard my voice. You cast me into the deep, into the heart of the sea, and the flood surrounded me. All your waves and your billows passed over me. Then I said, I am driven away from your sight. How shall I look again upon your holy temple? The waters closed in over me, the deep surrounded me. Weeds were wrapped around my head at the roots of the mountains. I went down to the land whose bars closed upon me forever. Yet you brought my life up from the pit, O Lord my God. As my life was ebbing away, I remembered the Lord, and my prayer came to you into your holy temple. Those who worship vain idols forsake their true loyalty. But I, with the voice of thanksgiving, will sacrifice to you. What I have vowed, I will pay. Deliverance belongs to the Lord.
Thank you, Jessica, and thanks ever so much, David, for leading us this morning. The first thing kayaker Adrian Simonkas noticed after he was eaten by a whale was the slime. It's actually a true story from earlier this year. Some of you may have seen it on the news or on the BBC website. And actually, if you go onto the BBC website, there's a video of him disappearing into the mouth of this enormous humpback whale. Experts think the humpback was feeding on a school of fish when it surfaced too quickly and accidentally scooped up Adrian and his kayak. But apparently humpbacks have a very narrow throat, which meant the throat was not big enough for a man and his kayak. So it was only a few seconds until they spat Jonah out again. Sorry about that. It's Father's Day, with Dad's joke. I think yours are better than mine. Finally, we get to the whale. The whale that I guess this story is the first connection we make. When you hear the word Jonah, you kind of say whale if you're playing word connections. Somebody asked me about this week who wasn't at the first. Somebody asked me about this last week who wasn't at the first service. So just really to reiterate that I understand Jonah as a parable. It's almost a satire on Israel's attempts and largely failures to live out the call to be God's people. I see it as that rather than a historical account. Others disagree, and you're free to choose which you feel most comfortable with. But I see it as a challenge, an invitation for God's people to change, to embrace God's will in a new way. But in order to appreciate it as a story, as a narrative, we need to kind of enter into the world on its own terms. We need maybe to suspend the idea that if we find the idea that somebody got swallowed by a whale and prayed from the belly, and we think, no, that can't possibly happen, you're not listening to the story right. Let's take it on its own terms. A bit like if you were watching, I don't know, Downton Abbey or Monsters, Inc. or Star Wars. In order to appreciate the story, you need to be in the story, don't you? You can't say, this is ridiculous, we have all these talking monsters. It doesn't make any sense. You're not going to get the story. So we need to enter into the story. We need to enter into Jonah's world, as it were. And as we enter into Jonah's world today, he's on the way down. Way down, down to the deepest deep. Where, and Jonah doesn't know this yet, he has an appointment. Jonah chapter 1 is all about the descent of Jonah. God calls Jonah to arise, to get up. And it immediately says, and Jonah went down to Joppa. Jonah's called to go up. Jonah goes down. He goes down to the ship. He goes down to the innermost parts of the ship. And finally, he descends down into the depths of the sea. You cast me into the deep, he says, into the heart of the seas. The waters closed over me. The deep surrounded me. He's down deep. Weeds were wrapped around my head at the roots of the mountains. I went down to the land whose bars closed upon me forever. To paraphrase and to quote Status Quo, down, down, deeper and down, for those of you who are of a certain era. So Jonah is on his way down, his physical descent mirroring his spiritual descent, until chomp. 3 days and 3 nights Jonah was in the belly of that massive marine mammal, that gargantuan guppy, that colossal creature of the deep. Who doesn't love a bit of alliteration? Having, as you saw on the slide earlier, having a whale of a time. I know, yes. In fact, Jonah was praying. A number of years ago, when our kids were at junior school, we were driving through the Dartford Tunnel, just emerging into the daylight, very close to this point. And suddenly the car died. 1 minute, 50 miles an hour, the next minute, absolutely nothing. Apparently the cam belt had snapped, but I did not know that at the time. Stranded in the middle of the road, looking nervously into my rear view mirror, aware that there were cars behind and they were going fast. I had no mobile phone and no clue what to do. So what do we do now, Sarah asked as I flapped around, my brain desperately trying to process what was going on. We should pray, Hannah offered from the back. Good minister's daughter there. So we did. Lord, help. That was it. That was all I had. No other words. And God sent us a pickup truck. Or at least the crossing operator did. Do you know that for every minute that there is a car stuck under the Dartford Tunnel, this is 20 years ago, it's probably worse now. For every minute a car is stuck on the Dartford Tunnel, that means a mile of tailback. So they want to get you out of there as quickly, I didn't know that at the time, but they want to get you out of there as quickly as they can. So we got a pickup truck who took us out of the road and then just dumped us at the first available spot where we were out of harm's way. 2 things about Jonah's prayer. Firstly, it's more like a psalm. If you read through Jonah's prayer, it is absolutely saturated with the Psalms. There's barely a single thought or phrase in the whole prayer that is not lifted in some way from the Psalms. Numerous Psalms quoted either directly or by implication. Jonah has taken words and ideas from other Psalms and shaped them to reflect his own situation. A bit like David did with our call to worship this morning. And Jonah has even shaped his prayer like a particular form of psalm. And we're going to come back to that in a moment. But can I commend the Psalms to you? If you want to learn how to pray better, then just get into the habit of praying the Psalms. You can start at the beginning. Whatever works for you, start at the beginning, one psalm a day. Just praying them for yourself, for others. Is it inductive learning where we learn by doing? Just do it. Learn the phrases, hear the phrases, focus on the phrases that catch your attention, that express how you feel. Allow the Psalms to form you and to form the way you pray. I don't know about you, but I often need words, or more words than just help, or sorry, or thank you. I need words to help me pray. Left to my own devices, my prayers are often more about me than about God, my concerns, my preoccupations, my ego even. But Jonah's prayer is first and foremost about God. Before it's about him, it's about God, about what God's done, about what God is like. If you read through the Psalms again and again, they're about God. Eugene Peterson talks about the Psalms as being the school of prayer, or being like a school of prayer. He says this: the Psalms rescue us from a preoccupation with ourselves and pull us into adoration and pilgrimage to God. It's not wrong to pray about ourselves. It's not wrong to pray about our concerns and our feelings and all that. There's nothing wrong with that. Unless that's all we're praying about. The Psalms draw us into the character and the nature of God. They're a gift from a good and loving Father who has given us words to offer to him in prayer, to aid the conversation, as it were. Just commend the Psalms to you as a gift of God. But the second thing about Jonah's prayer, gone ahead. Second thing about Jonah's prayer is it is not a help psalm. There are plenty of psalms which kind of say help in much longer, in much better language in a sense. It's not a prayer for deliverance. It's not a "I'm a prophet, get me out of here" prayer. Instead, it's a psalm of thanksgiving. A psalm where the psalmist celebrates that they have been delivered. Lord, thank you for getting me out of there. Do you see the difference? Lord, this is after the event. Lord, thank you that you have delivered me, that you have rescued me, that you have saved me. We might assume that Jonah needs to be rescued from the fish. But what if the fish is the solution, not the problem, not the threat? After all, we're told at the end of chapter 1 that God provided a fish to swallow up Jonah. What if the fish is the rescue, not the problem? And what if the storm isn't the problem either? What if the storm is part of the rescue as well? From what we've heard so far, what is the biggest danger to Jonah in this story so far? Anyone? Pardon? His disobedience himself. It's not the storm, it's not the fish, it's not the Ninevites. It's Jonah himself. Jonah in his disobedience, in his pettiness, in his hard heart, in his self-obsession. That's the real problem. Jonah needs to be saved from himself because he is on the fast track downwards. I wonder how often that is true in our own lives. That the biggest threat to our own flourishing is ourselves. Our selfishness or self-obsession. Our pettiness. Our weakness, our willfulness. How often have you thought, why did I say that? Or why did I do that? Or why didn't I do that? Why can't I learn to keep quiet? Why do I keep doing that same thing over and over and over again and expecting the outcome to be different? And if you look at the news this week, thank you, Kat, for your prayers for the world this week. Kind of feels sometimes that humanity has this self-destruct mechanism, doesn't it? Why do we keep doing it time and time and time again? Why don't we learn from the past? But oh no, we just repeat the cycles of behavior over and over and over again. We are truly our own worst enemy sometimes. Most times, maybe. Do you remember the story of the prodigal son? I think there's a lot of similarity between the prodigal son and Jonah. Two silly little men. Another man who left his father to do his own thing. Jonah was attracted by the bright lights of Tarshish. The prodigal son by his father's fortune, by his share in the father's fortune, and by the wine, women, and song that it could buy him. And the disaster hits. And he finds himself feeling jealous of a bunch of pigs because they are better fed than he is. And we are told that he came to his senses. Has it ever struck you when you've heard that parable that the famine was the rescue, not the problem? The problem was the man. Needed the famine to bring him to his senses. Jonah has come to his senses. He's decided to stop running and finally to engage with God. The seismic storm, the deep dive, the whopping whale. They've all changed Jonah in some way. I've seen it suggested that Jonah basically took all his worldly wealth with him. It was a one-way ticket to Tarshish. He had everything. He'd lost everything. His suitcase full of clothes, the only clothes he had, the money in his wallet, everything had gone. But he's come out of this richer than he was before. I wonder when you look back through your life, what are the things that have helped you to grow and to mature, to change? What has brought out the best in you? What has helped send you off in a new, better direction? And oftentimes it's the storms, isn't it? It's the tough times. Doesn't mean that every storm is good and helpful. Some are just rubbish, for want of a less polite word. Neither is it to say that God sends the storms. They may simply be the result of our bad choices. They may be the result of someone else's brokenness. They may simply be misfortune. They may be God sent. And yet so often it is the tough times that our Father God uses to shape and refine our lives for good, to foment faith or compassion, resilience in our lives. Many of you are aware of some of the health difficulties that our family went through many years ago, with Noah and Hannah and Esther all facing serious health challenges all at the same time. It felt like Sarah and I spent most of our week juggling appointments, health appointments. We reckon that we had between 200 and 300 appointments with medical staff in a couple of years. It was horrible. It was a tough time. For long periods, there were no diagnoses, and lots of you know how that feels. And then it was a case of learning to manage conditions rather than expecting them to get better, at least not briefly, not immediately. I think it was the toughest time of my life. And whilst things eventually did settle down and get better and the number of health appointments reduced over time, that experience changed me as a person. I'd like to think it made me a better dad. It changed my theology. It changed how I understand being a pastor. Changed not just me, but the whole family. Hopefully for the better. The writer Henri Nouwen talks about the wounded healer, about how the wounds that we carry with us, the stuff that we deal with, actually can become the place from where we minister, the place where we reach out to friends and family, because we get it, and we've been there, and we know what it's like. None of us want the storm. None of us want the fish. And yet, so often, folks look back like I did and find that their relationship with God deepened, that in some sense they came to their senses with fresh vision for their life or a different way of doing it. Adrian Simoncas says that after being swallowed by the whale, he feels like he's been given a second chance. My experience, he said, invited me to reflect on what I could have done better up until this point, on the ways that I can take advantage of the experience and appreciate it as well. Bad things will happen to all of us, that's pretty much guaranteed. And it may be that you're going through such a time at the moment. But good things also happen to all of us. Lots of the time. And where is God in all of this? I remember one of my church members telling me on one occasion that when difficult things happen, they ask God, what do you want to teach me here? It's ironic how often church members have pastored me and taught me and blessed me over the years. My natural reaction when I'm going through a storm is to want it to end. Just get it over with. I want to be out of here. To focus on how to get through it. To mutter, moan, and whinge. And actually, that's okay. That's okay. And if you're going through a tough time at the minute and that's how you're feeling, that is okay. The Psalms have enough complaints in them to last a lifetime. If you read the Psalms, they're full of complaints, of lament, of woe. And that's okay. But the Psalms also remind me that that's not enough. At the heart of the Psalms is a sense of what Eugene Peterson calls a God awareness. God awareness is not about trying to answer the why questions. Why is God doing this to me? Why did this happen? Why did God let this happen? They may be the natural questions to ask, but I'm not sure they're the right ones. It's interesting, we don't ask those questions very often when life's great, do they? Why has God poured all these great things into my life? That actually might be a better time to ask those questions. But in good times and in bad times, what do you want to teach me, O God? Feels like a much better question. What can I learn? How can I grow from this? Whatever you are going through, whether it's at the heights of the mountains or the depths of the sea, it can still be a place where you encounter God. A place where you can serve God. A place where God speaks to you. He may even send a very large fish. Although, to be honest, it's more likely to be a friend. The whale seems to have been a one-off. I was struck by Jonah, God speaking through the captain last week, telling Jonah to get up. And I suspect Jonah missed it. That sense of God awareness. Where is God in this? And oftentimes it's somebody else who will say something. Then Jonah prayed to the Lord his God from the belly of the fish. Those who worship vain idols forsake their true loyalty, but I, with the voice of thanksgiving, will sacrifice to you. What I have vowed I will pay. Deliverance belongs to the Lord. This is Jonah at his best. Jonah in the depths of the sea, in the gut of a whale, reaches for the heights. Here, where he's hemmed in, Jonah soars with eagle's wings. Here, where he's lost everything, where he has nowhere to run, no choices to make, here where his future is unclear, Jonah sings to God. Elsewhere in the book, Jonah is a man of few words, but here he waxes lyrical about God's goodness. Here in this stinky mammalian grave, way down in the middle of the ocean, Jonah is at his most alive. Here he is most God aware. Deliverance belongs to the Lord. In some ways, that phrase is the key to understanding the whole book, the whole story. Deliverance or salvation, they're pretty interchangeable here. Belongs to the Lord. Jonah relies on that deliverance. And in truth, so do we, don't we? We rely on that deliverance. Deliverance belongs to the Lord. Salvation belongs to the Lord. Amen? Amen. Praise be to God.